in this computer.
I just heard the sound recording in progress.
Okay, we're ready. We're back.
Okay, let's just give it a second or two of silence. Okay, we are back and we have photo number 6 up in front of me and in front of you. Now, I know who that is. I know where it was taken, and I have a general sense of when and probably the general setting. But let's do this. Okay, the picture has just flashed before you. What does it make you think about? What memories does it trigger? Unique to the photo or simply because of the photo?
The first trigger is there was another beach towel directly opposite to this girl, and on that beach towel was Patty. And we were at the picnic area at Skinny Atlas Country Club. I'm guessing it was a Sunday afternoon. You can see the smile on my face, but I know that girl's smile was because Patty was spending interested time in me. And, that was, I'm at a point where I'm looking at my big sister here. Look at my hair's combed out. Why am I not in the water? Because I'm happy to be with Patty.
May I ask then, is Patty taking that picture?
I absolutely know that Patty took that picture, and I think that's a whole other conversation we've got to have sometime, Mike, with Patty. It seems to me that her Kodak camera with those 4 little flash bulbs at the top, that was her Christmas present someday, became the family camera.
Wow. See,
and I wonder, like, did mom and dad say, can I borrow your camera, Patty? Like, so many of our photographs are that Kodak, the sidebar here. We've got the 3x5 picture, and then we had those little mini pictures. So a lot of our history is from Patty's images.
Well, if this gets posted on the chatter board in the RFT, there will be opportunity for Patty to clarify on that. And I hope she does, because I love just hearing that. It never struck me, but at times I always wondered, who took that picture? Nobody had, the Nikon cameras or the cool stuff in those days. Let's talk about that, because I have the fondest of memories about picnics, family picnics at Skinny Atlas at that far end of the property, just west of the first putting green. But for no particular reason other than they happened. They were more than once. We were mostly all together. What did it feel like to you? What do you remember when you look back upon those picnic days in general?
I adored them, Mike. We spent a lot of our week over at Skinny Atlas on the other side, either at day camp or junior golf that we talked about. But this was it was such a family experience and a lot of different levels. Remember Bernie? Sure. Wearing a dress, sitting in a little rocking chair, and Dad and Mom seemed very relaxed with the newspaper. And I remember Dad would buy some of those Miller beer splits, the little skinny ones. It just felt like we were all there because we loved it.
Well, it was neat too, because it was at a time when it was a 10-person family plus a grandmother. It was at a time when Pete and Bob, although still young, could get in the water, run around and swim and have fun. It was at a time when sometimes friends would join us. I think there's some video footage of Gina Burkhart being there with Patty. Yeah. And then I laugh at this because I think it's so fun and funny. Sam there with us often, but he and Nancy had to sit a little bit away. The great unwashed masses that were made up of the rest of us. And goodness gracious, there's Dad getting in the lake and swimming around, and Mom too. It was, but you hit the nail on the head. The picture shows it. Relaxing time, just a great time. So we can say goodbye to that picture for the moment, and we'll get to some others later. I think when we last left off, we finished up on Steel Street. We talked a bit about school, certainly up to and including high school completion. And we started to look into time that was living on Owasco Street time and everything that surrounded it too. I want to first start with something that I know about, but I think it deserves posterity comment. I'm under the impression that my sister Teresa, who has a 4-year college degree, a master's in library science, and who generated a full and illustrious career as a tenured teacher or professor at Cuba County Community College, wasn't exactly pushed to college from high school. Tell us how that could possibly be, or how it unfolded.
I remember Mom saying to me, or maybe not saying it to me. Remember, we get our report cards and Mom and Dad would have to sign on the back.
Sure, every one of mine said, "Does not work to ability," and it was correct.
But what does ability mean? It's that benchmark that a teacher has for you or a parent. And Mom would reply on mine, "Teresa works very hard." And I don't know. I don't think I hit my stride until later in life. I've always been a very poor speller, and I was not a great reader as a little one in elementary school, and I think that really does position you for maybe some struggles. But for me, it was developmental. I just wasn't mature enough to grasp reading until a little later, I think. Anyway, so I think that Mom and Dad were quite delighted that I took to typing so well. And I really loved the whole idea of clerical work. I worked for Dad at Red Star, and I organized those invoices so they looked nice. And I think that they saw that was a good niche for me. So in high school, I really was tagged to not more, I would suppose they would say not college bound. So when I graduated from high school, Mom and Dad took me to a business school in Boston to see if that might be a fit for me. And it wasn't. So I went to the community college, which was great because it gave me more time to grow up. And I took business courses there, and I kind of got sick of it. And I found some other interests that I liked, and they were more of a pathway to literature. And so that's the avenue I took at Nazareth.
So that's another sliver that's in my life too, and I bet everybody's in this family's life. Finding yourself when seems to have happened for you in the first couple of years of college, and then it kind of took off from there, or you followed your heart and your thinking and your likes from that point in time. Good for you. I like that story. I don't remember you being taken, was it by Mom and Dad, to that business school in Boston. I don't remember that even happening. Where was I? I was probably married.
Well, you know what? You might have been in, well, no, let's see. You would have been married. You were busy. We were all doing our own thing. But I love that trip, Mike, because never in my life prior to that or since have I ever had that much time alone with mom and dad in the car. We stayed at Ted Graney's house.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got it.
We went to this Catherine Gibbs fancy business school, which was interested but not me. And then we drove through Boston, and Dad was looking for a parking spot, and he found one and said, "Let's eat here." And in Dad's true fashion, it ended up being the oldest restaurant in Boston, and we
No
got
kidding.
seats. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's nothing like just talking to learn new stuff that was well in your memory banks, but now it's in mine too. And it's making me wonder that maybe we all ought to sit down together and talk about, although it won't be for everybody, that time when our parents took us to college or to look at colleges, because that was mom and dad time, unique to just us as an individual. I remember vividly. Anyway, well, you know, you brought up mom and dad. Let's start talking about them. I want to start with dad because I don't mean it in a negative sense. It just seems that dad's been gone for so long that I seem to think less about him in terms of, going through the good old memories than I do mom. And of course, mom was with us for so much more in terms of time. But let's just start with dad. But it can be mom and dad for however you respond here. How old were you when dad had his heart attack in 1972?
I was in ninth grade.
Okay, that sets the scene for me then.
Yeah.
Just share me some of your own thoughts, your own memories of sharing time with or seeing, observing, and thinking about your dad before and after the heart attack, because he changed in so many ways, mainly physical energy ways that distinctions have to be made. So go ahead. I want you to talk, not me.
Well, I'll just share three vivid memories, and they're older. I mean, I was 19 when dad died, so how old was I really when I say older, but not childhood. Childhood was, I was just in the nest. I was in the nest where everything was warm and good. Dad walked through the door, had his hat on and his, suit, and then it was family time. So that was always a sense of warmth. But I remember dad just being there at the right moment. And one of those moments is I was a junior in high school, and for some reason I decided to try out for the spring musical. And that was a big, brave thing for me. So I'm sitting in the auditorium at Auburn High, and it's filled with all of these people who are in chorus or band or theater. And then there's me. And I don't even know who did it with me. I think it might have been Martha Backus, maybe Martha. So it was going to be Oliver. And they put your name in a bucket, and the crew called names to come up and sing one little bar piece to Oliver. And I was picked first. And I mean, even today, I blush or get nervous. So you can imagine that, 16, 17-year-old kid. And I went up there and I sang something and walked right out of the auditorium because I knew I didn't make the play. And I was walking down Lake Avenue, and who drives by and pulls over but Dad? So I'm walking home from school late. He must be coming home from work earlier, and there he is. Now, this is no cell phone. I didn't call
Right.
Mom and say, oh, I blew it. And I got in the car and I had been crying, and Dad said, what's the matter? And I told him the story, and he said, well, you don't know that. Tomorrow you'll see if you made the play. So home I went, and the next day I made the play.
Oh.
And Dad was there. Dad picked me up, pulled me out of my funk, and I just love those moments. And I bet we all have a bunch of them.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I've never heard that story. And I did not know, shame on me, I'm so sorry, that I didn't know you tried out for and got into the play Oliver. Why wasn't I there to watch you? Now, I'm feeling like I let you down, but obviously I did. And this isn't about me, but I love it. I kind of got you talking. Why don't you just talk about Mom, talk about Dad together or separately a little bit, because these are big things. Let me give you a prod. And this may be hard for you too. You were there when Dad died, weren't you? You were home up in your room. And not alone. Tom was there. I think Jack was there. Whatever number of people were there. What can you share with us about that is either hard to recall, or you were glad you were there for Mom, or?
I think that at some point, Tom and Jack know the story better than I do. I was a sophomore. It was the summer I graduated from CCC. So Dad died in August. I turned 19 in December. And it was a very selfish time in my life. It was all about me and going out with my friends and lots of partying all summer long. And let this be a lesson to you people that are watching in the future. And I had gotten home from being out late. Now, this is terrible. I can't even believe I'm saying this on a video. And Mom and Dad had been out with customers over at that fancy Belhurst Castle in Geneva. And my friend dropped me off. And I got sick in the bushes outside our house. And Mom and Dad drive in.
Everybody gets a tummy ache from time to time.
Yeah, right. And anyway, I go in the house and get ready, go to bed, and Dad knocked on my door. And he opened it up and he put his head in and he said, we're going to talk about this in the morning. And
well, what did he know other than you were home a little late?
Well, why do you think I was getting sick in the bushes?
Well, you think he heard or knew that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, that's a tough thing, because shortly after that, Dad had his heart attack, and that was the last heart attack, and that was his last day in time on earth. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I'm sure
he had to see it. I hope, you worry about the stress you cause people.
Okay. Well, maybe we ought to devote a time to when the 10 of us have to confess our moments when our mom or dad or both were really upset with us. And I guess it'll be a giant confessional time. And I will predict right now, Tom will come in number 1 and I'll come in number 2. That's how I predicted, or Tom and I will tie. Anyway, yeah, that's a tough thing. but I kind of knew a little bit about it, and I bet you've been told by everybody over and over again, the heck, you were 19. You were home, you got home late, you've been having a drink or two, probably legally at 19, or had they bumped the drinking age up to 21 by then?
No,
All right.
it was 18. Yeah.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
needed,
it was legal, Mike.
yeah, you just needed your own apartment back then. That's all. That's all. Now, again, I'm gonna just keep pushing you a little bit more here. Mom and dad, mom and dad, mom and dad. Go.
Another visual that is kind of burning in my head, and I really think it's interesting how I would say this is a common theme in most, I hope most families. It's not necessarily the big stuff. You know, you think, this huge party or whatever. It's the spot on important in the moment stuff that matters. And so I was a swimmer, and at the YMCA in Auburn, there is the section for the bleachers, but above that is a balcony. And I have absolute memory of dad coming in and standing in the balcony. And especially if you were in a relay on a high school swim team, you'd be standing waiting for your time to get on the block to swim. So you were very aware of who was there. And I can absolutely remember watching dad come in, and he had that black coat on, and he just looked like, you know, a movie star. He just walked in with such a presence, and I'm sure I just kicked ass in the pool because he was there. So that's a good memory.
You know, I'll throw a little thought in here for those who are looking in the future. You'll see all kinds of stories, articles, pictures. That's all about Ringwood Golf, Ringwood Golf, Ringwood Golf. But we have and have had and continue to have some pretty serious swimmers, including Nancy, Patty, Teresa, Jack, Paul. And if I'm missing anybody, that's my fault. Well, at least Bob's son, Colin,
yeah,
swims on the Auburn High swim team. So that's a lot. That's a lot of swimming and a lot of swimmers.
Especially for a family with ear problems, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
Another whole interview collectively. Keep going. Mom, dad.
I've got another good memory of dad. I went on a lot of high school or a lot of colleges will have trips. And so there was a New York City trip that was planned at Cayuga Community College, where I went, and I took that with some of my girlfriends. And I think we saw The Wiz, and I don't even remember what else we did, but I went to St. Patrick's Cathedral. And it really made a big impact on me, both New York City and the majestic nature of such a symbolic church in the city. And so I came home, and I got home late from my weekend trip with the whatever club. And I went upstairs, and both mom and dad were in bed, were up in their bedroom, probably watching television. And I knocked on the door, and I went in. I was still on a high from a great weekend. And I said to dad, I'm going to get married at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and you're going to wear a tux. And dad was like, okay.
Good memory. You know, when you mentioned knocking on mom and dad's bedroom door, it just made me flash into a picture of that setting. Directly across the hallway, exiting mom and dad's room, would be yours and Patty's bedroom door. In between is the bathroom, the large bathroom in that huge house that had basically a bathroom and a half to cover everything. Well, we had the downstairs bathroom, but Bernie owned that. And then there was the door up to the attic, which should be another whole story by all of us. And then there's your door. That must have been kind of an interesting section of the house to have lived in. I lived way in the back, hidden away where boys can make trouble and noise and not be heard, except when Dad's leather-soled wingtips are walking down the hardwood, and you're wondering who's in trouble now. I bet there was a lot of interaction in that hallway between your rooms when people are getting up in the morning, people are getting ready for bed. Anything that flashes in your mind?
Oh,
Because mom and dad are right there.
well, you talk about the sounds of Dad's shoes, and I think we all, you know, can pull that up. But how about the sounds of Dad's whistling?
Oh, you're giving me more. Go
Yeah,
right
and Dad would, I would be in my room, and I just loved hearing him whistle coming up the stairs. And it was sorry about all this. It was enough of a staircase. I mean, how many people in our, run around childhood hit a staircase like that? It
Why
was
don't you throw up picture number 9?
Oh, good
Because it
idea.
shows that staircase leading up to
Yeah.
that hall. That it's not really a hallway; it's an open foyer area. To the right is mom and dad's bedroom. To the left is yours. People will be interested that this is way more than just the stairs up to the second floor.
Yeah. I'm gonna take that down. And gosh, Mike, I was much better. You are screen sharing. Give me a second here.
It's
But
all
while we're pulling that, oh, here we go. I was just slow. There you go, Mike. And
I
that's
don't
the
see it.
original.
I just see the small version of it on my screen.
Well, let's see. How about there?
No, I'm just seeing all 10 of them up at the top of the screen that I'm looking at. None of them yet enlarged.
Well, as we're talking about that,
So, and you can talk about this while you're doing it. So
I
you're
think
talking about Dad and his whistling as he comes up the stairs?
Yep. And sometimes it would be,
I have it.
You have it?
Yep.
Great. It might be the, I'm trying to think of some of Dad's songs. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I can hear the whistling, and
Well,
he would.
like Anne Murray, Snowbird. For some reason, I have connected him with a Three Dog Night. A lot of Three Dog Night songs, but of course they loved South Pacific and some of those plays and that had records and some Frank Sinatra and that kind of stuff. But they weren't real big, music people. Mom or Dad.
No.
So let's actually. So that would be the stairway you would use to go to bed each night?
Yes.
And you would use to come down in the morning?
Yes.
I almost never used it. But let's talk about that picture because it's interesting, although I'm diverting from mom and dad.
That's okay. They're always present.
Where are Paul and David in that picture? They must be in bed, little kids. They're not there.
Well, I'm also looking at, I'm guessing that I'm in second grade here because I remember my first communion that we look, that's the age. So if I was in second grade, Paul was in kindergarten. So yeah, they were in bed. But Mike, this staircase, so future video people know that at the bottom of this staircase across the hallway is what we called the den. And we'd say our prayers and kiss mom and dad goodnight and then put ourselves to bed. Well, we're older. But if you can look at the background, do you remember this wallpaper, Mike?
Well, I was going to go there next, and I
Ah.
absolutely remember it. And if I'm recalling correctly, when we were all last in that house, compliments of a showing by the owners who bought it from mom many years later, that would be Greg Rigby and his wife Carol. That was still on the wall, wasn't it?
No.
No.
There are two interesting wallpaper stories.
Okay, go ahead.
This wallpaper, it looked like, I would say, early 20th century village, complete with little sweet homes and trees and women with aprons. And it was a brownish, tinges of brown. And I would say goodnight to my parents, our mom and dad, and then ever so slowly, because I wanted to still hear the television, or if they were talking about me, I would take my finger and I would slowly just trace through the village all the way up the staircase. And I'd get to the point where Nancy would be, and Dad probably could see me, and he'd say, "Good night, Teresa." And up I would skirt to.
That's right. The view from where we're all standing allows us to look right into the den. And of course, where Dad sat, he'd have just turning his head right, he'd be able to see some action on the stairs or people on it who needed to be sleeping. Isn't that something? Hey, tell me now, if you look to the left of that photo, that's the area underneath the curving stairway. And there's something on the wall, hanging on the wall in a frame. What is that? Do you remember?
This is, it's some kind of a proclamation, I think, from Pope Paul. It's one of the popes, and it's a document.
Well, one of our brothers and sisters will have to chatter that detail into the RFT for us. Did you like to do things underneath that stairwell on the first floor? It seemed like it was a semi-magnetic little area, depending on where you were in your life.
That wasn't my default spot, because remember, Patty and I had those really cool closets that opened up and turned into opposite closets. So we would make our clubhouse, which I think all of us had various secret clubhouses around the home or the yard. So the under the staircase, really what stands out to me is that was where the cradle was with the new baby.
Peter was the first to use it.
Peter,
you know where that cradle is now?
Is it at your house?
It is, but I'm begging nieces or nephews who have babies that it's available to them. So far, no takers. But again, I don't want to interrupt unnecessarily your narrative.
No, the cradle did live at my house for a little bit, and I think you have to be a long, skinny baby to fit in it nowadays. But no, that under the staircase was a cool spot. And I loved how before there was a kids' Christmas tree there in the later years. Remember, Mike, that was the spot where mom and dad, but mom did the wrapping, would put the family Christmas presents, not
I
Santa
remember
Claus
it.
presents. So
Yeah.
that was like a great, great spot.
Yeah, I remember seeing those presents and always, I just couldn't avoid picking, they had our names on them already.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't avoid picking them up. And I remember that I absolutely knew there was a present for my godfather, Ted Graney, and I knew it was a book. And I kept, how it wasn't in a box; it was just a book wrapped, a hardcover book, so you can tell the spine and what's and where the pages are. And I kept kind of ripping away at it till I could tell whether it was a Hardy Boy, Chip Hilton, or whatever series of boy books. But that was
Remember
fun.
what book it was?
Specifically, no, but it was one of those series. I read all the Hardy Boy books over and over again. I read Chip Hilton. He was like a sports star and high school type guy. Read all those over and over again. Then there was a whole big other series called Tom Swift. He was like a high school science genius who, flew into space and did all kinds of stuff like that. Read all of those too, and then shoved them over to Jack. Anyway, this is not about me. So
can I just say, I didn't know that Ted was your godfather.
Oh, heck, yes,
That's
you.
cool.
Yeah,
No.
You had to have known that, but it just slipped away. That's all that was. Yeah, Ted's my godfather and my stepfather. Sure enough. And I guess he always gave me a gift for Christmas. Sure enough.
Mine
Anyway.
was Jack Graney.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another piece of history that ought to be recorded up. Who were your godparents? Anyway, and Aunt Helen was my godmother. So I caused us to divert from mom and dad. Memories of dad interacting with you that involved the stairway and the bedroom's location. Why don't we do this? I'm going to move on, but whenever you have a thought of dad or thought of mom that pops up just because it does and you want to share, do it. Let's go to the bedroom, because now that I think about it, I never really concentrated much on why we were in what bedrooms we were, but I think it's a dynamic worth sharing. Your bedroom was completely adjacent to and by door connected to Nancy's room. Nancy got her own room. You shared always with Patty. And I do remember the closet space that you had along with Patty. It was a door into the wall. You walked in, and to the right is one person's closet, left is another's, and I guess that's how you shared things. But my understanding with two people in that room, that at times quarters were a little bit tight, and maybe you didn't know where the best place was to put your clothing. Where did you keep most of your clothing?
Well, there is an easy answer to that, Mike. When there isn't enough room, you just shove it under your bed.
Really?
Yes,
Really? Now, did Patty teach you that? Because I doubt that very much.
No, and I don't know. I just think I was a peculiar little kid and more interested in getting outside to play because I remember it just seemed quicker to throw your clothes under the bed. But what ended up happening is you ran out of clothes in your drawers.
Mhm.
And I recall putting a shirt on backwards because the front was dirty. And mom said, "What are you doing?" And she went upstairs and discovered my stash under the bed.
Now, your sleeping quarters were shared with someone else who was a few years older than you, and shared right into periods when Patty, who was your roommate, was in high school. And were you ever in high school at the same time she was? Oh, so you had a whole interesting view of someone who's more than 4 years older than you. Tell us about that. What was that like? Living with Patty.
It, it, I love when people tell stories and you get everybody's different perspective. And it's like, it's one little thing, but it becomes a different story. And I got to have all of my high school years, all of high school, having my own room.
Oh,
I
okay. I
got
didn't
all of
appreciate that.
college having my own room, but Patty never did. I was always that kid's sister in her bedroom. Patty taught me so much. Patty taught me about the aesthetics of design, like how we would place our saint statues on the dresser. We had one dresser that had 5 drawers. That's it. Patty had a desk. I had a dressing table, which was my desk, but it was smaller. Patty placed pictures of all the Beatles in a specific spot in each area of the room so that their line of vision was looking right at her as she was sitting on her bed. So it would be Ringo was looking at her, Paul was looking at her. And I thought that was fascinating. But I'd say I was very much aware of Patty's high school friends coming in the bedroom. I was very much aware of Nancy next door. I was very much aware of Patty having she would put the hair dryer, she put her hair up in big rollers and she'd sleep with the hair dryer on her head going. And not even hair dryer. It was, I don't even know how to describe this to people of the future. It was like a little bonnet that had warm air.
Yeah.
And it softened the curls for Patty. So her hair was straighter. And when Patty went off to college, I couldn't sleep very well because the hum was gone from the bedroom.
Yeah.
Yep. And I knew that Tom came in our room and hung out and talked to Patty when that hum was going on. But my favorite Patty stories, or my favorite memories, are sitting on her bed. Her bed was closest to the 2 windows, and my bed was closer to the door to the hallway. And I would sit on her bed and we would play double solitaire until what I thought was so late at night. It was probably 10:30.
Mhm.
And she taught me an awful lot.
That's nice. Now I've just been recently mentally appreciating the fact that those 2 bedrooms had a door between them, no hallway, door directly between yours and Nancy's bedroom. Now, what was that like for you? And I'm trying to focus on that time when Patty and Nancy are there, both in high school, and how you were allowed to or not interact with them because they had their friends come up and see them in their bedrooms. Anything you can share on that?
Well, I do think that's an interesting feature of the house. And I remember being told that it was probably typical that Nancy's bedroom or the bedroom Patty and I shared, one was a bedroom and one was more of a dressing room.
Mhm.
Because not only was there the door to Nancy's bedroom, but there was a door on the other side of our closet.
Right.
So her bed butt up against that, but those were shared. That was a shared space at one time, which became 2 separate spaces. But I think about how often I ran through Nancy's room, just up those back stairs, through her room into my room. And I don't think my kids would have wanted that. Nancy's was another hallway in a lot of ways. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to, I have a strong memory of one Saturday, but I was little. And Nancy and Patty fussed over me. They were doing a makeover, I guess. And I sat in the big chair in Nancy's room and they did makeup and they did my hair. And we had Cokes. We all had a Coke upstairs. And that's a great memory. Um, but I remember Nancy and Patty going out on the aluminum rooftop to lay in the sun, and I thought that was really cool.
That was
But
roof that was over what we referred to as our second kitchen, later to become the room where the pool table was, later to become where room 2 of where Bernie lived, and then the playroom that went right out to the back door, or backyard, also later to become a really nice place where Bernie lived, our grandmother lived. Let me ask you this, because I think I gotta believe it happened. And if it didn't, you want to deny it, that's okay too. I don't care. But maybe I'm just thinking about, what devious little things maybe I did in my life too. So there you are, you're in this kind of shared bedroom space, definitely with your sister and sister Patty and Nancy. And there had to have been times when you were in your bedroom alone, meaning Patty's not there, with maybe a friend or two of yours, or just by yourself. Here we go. Did you ever sneak through and look at Patty's stuff?
oh, I'll tell you the things that I did. Um, Patty had wonderful makeup, and I just remember I I definitely remember she had this. It was like a tube, and each it was a long pencil-like tube that you would take the first tip off, and maybe it was blue eyeshadow. And then beneath that was another tip, and maybe that was white eyeshadow. And I was fascinated with that. And when you're young, you think you're so discreet, but you're not. So I'm sure that I had fingerprints or probably used it. And I got in a bit of trouble for that from
With Patty?
with Patty.
Well,
Who's
she must,
touching my makeup?
she must have been giving you instructions at some point in time during that period of room sharing of don't ever touch this, don't ever go in here, blah, blah, blah.
And what you really hear is don't ever touch this or come near my stuff while I'm in the room.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't quite hear it that way. I just heard, when I heard directive like that, that meant, I'm going to violate that,
Yeah.
that demand. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'll do my best not to ever get caught. And most of the time I never did. Now, let me, just so people who listen to it can hear, how did dirty clothing, get down to the basement, which is where the washer and dryer were? How did that get accomplished in that house?
Well, the boys' side of the house had the hamper or the chute,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know about Nancy, but I do believe Patty and I used the hamper. That would have been in
Oh.
mom and dad's bedroom or bathroom.
Oh, see, now
Yeah.
I was kind of, and the chute is identified on the little architectural drawing in the RFT. It is way in the back near the boys are. And I was thinking maybe that was going to be your excuse for all your clothes under your bed, that it was just too far to have to take them and
Well,
get
that
them.
would have been a good explanation. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, save it for later when you want to try it out live with others. But I tried to throw you a little bone there, but guess it didn't arrive. Uh, where do I want to go next? I'll just keep telling you, mom and dad. Anytime you want to talk about mom or dad or mom and dad, go right ahead. But why don't we jump to this? Let's just go right off the beaten path for a moment into just a whole arena. you and Bill have been married how many years?
40.
And you dated for how many years before that? Approximately.
Not that long. I think it was, we dated a year and then we got engaged probably at about 18 months and then married the following fall.
Okay, so we'll call it a couple of years in
Yeah.
general. I know Bill. 8 others know Bill. But what should the world know about Bill Borchert?
Well, you know, I started by clarifying the people I admire most are my family. And, you know, as I went through life, and especially after Dad died, I shut off a lot. I really didn't have any interest in getting close to other people. I kind of felt a little um, interested in staying in a safer spot. And then I met Bill, and I got through Nazareth and didn't have any close boyfriends or anything. And I was at Geneseo for grad school, and I was invited to come in and visit some friends who had an apartment in Pittsford after the Nazareth days. And did you know this, Michael? I took the big Buick LeSabre with me to Geneseo.
Meaning when you lived there?
Yes. Yes.
Ooh, I don't recall that. That's a pretty nice
Very
piece of
nice.
generosity.
Yeah.
And that was a big, beautiful car too.
It was a big, beautiful car, but
Right, pretty
it
beat up.
also, it was so rusted in the back that you couldn't put your feet anywhere. So if you were sitting in the back seat, and also that was when gas was so expensive. So I
Oh.
ended up having it for a little bit and then I left it home because it was a nuisance. But I
After the
took that car and drove from Geneseo to back to Pittsford to visit friends. And my girlfriend said, "Oh, we're going to have a party and we're going to invite the boys next door." So directly next door to my girlfriend's was a home that a lot of the Pittsford guys hung out in, while Richie Crothers, that was his house. Mom and Dad spent the winter months in Florida. And so that was how the Nazareth girls met the boys next door. And Bill came to that party, and I remember he had a rag sweater on, and he had still has a great smile. And I liked him immediately.
Let me
Just
stop
like,
you right there, but hold your thought, because it sounds like you're describing your first visual of Bill. And I'm a big, I find this interesting, but absolutely true. The only way you can react initially to a person is through senses. See, hear, maybe smell or not smell, or or touch your feet. And I'm always curious about those first sensory reactions. You've just started to tell us. Keep going.
no, that I like that, Mike. And I think a lot of us are struck by that in an environment that's loaded with a lot of those sensory images. So it was a party. There were a lot of people there. There was music. It was all the senses were employed, and it was in the kitchen, and it was a brighter environment, so I could see and he was at the kitchen table and another guy was with him, and we were all basically introducing ourselves in a, oh so cool way. And we talked, and I guess I must have gone home that night because we went outside and Bill went with me, and it had been snowing, and I'm heading over to the big Buick, and I said, did you ever make Angels in the Snow when you were a kid? And he leaped down and said, I just made one for you. And so that was the start. And I knew, like, I would like to know this guy more.
Now, your first interaction with him, beyond just your two eyes, did somebody introduce you to him, or did you see him go up to him, see him make eye contact, he comes up to you? Come on, let's hear it.
He tells me the story. There was one of the members of the Boys Next Door crew was standing next to Bill, and he was being very attentive to me.
Mhm.
And I was not interested in his attentiveness, but I was interested in the guy that was standing next to him. So
Okay,
I think
yours was immediate. Yours was with your two eyes and whatever senses were firing, and nobody had to introduce you.
no. And I think Bill got a kick out of the fact that his friend kind of was like, oh, who's that? And was trying to, get to know me. And I think Bill thought it was funny that
Now, after you showed some level of immediate interest in Bill, which was showing lack of interest in the other young man whose senses were heightened by seeing you, did you spend most of the time at that party chit-chatting with Bill?
no, I didn't. And I just remember because Bill's very social.
Yeah.
So I think he thought that exchange was fun or funny. And
But how do you end up walking out together when you're going to be leaving?
I think I don't even remember what prompted that, but let's
He'll-
say that it was Bill that followed me out.
I guarantee that's it, and I certain Bill will know, and he can chat about this in the chatter section too. And you decided to ask about Angels in the Snow. Where? Why does that come up? What triggered you to say that?
Well, I think it was kind of awkward. Like,
Mhm.
you're at this party and everybody's socializing and drinking and just being casual, but we really didn't all know each other. We just knew that we were all around the same age and living this fun life of either your first apartment or your parents are in Florida and all your guy friends are hanging out. And so I don't know what prompted me to say that. And I suspect there wasn't anything intentional other than it was an easy exchange because he certainly answered the question just as visually as my first impression of him.
So I'm picturing you hitting the gas, kicking up snow, probably all over Bill, who's lying on the ground trying to make a snow angel, and off you go. And then, like, what happened? The next day you decided to get married?
No, well, future video watchers here, no cell phones, no computers. I lived in a group house in Geneseo. I didn't know if I'd see him again, but I knew I'd see my friends. And I knew, the boys were living next door. But Bill called me on our group phone which I'm sure you and many other siblings, we all had our apartments where we had to share the expense of those long distance phone calls. And he invited me out for dinner at the end
Well,
of
how
March.
did he get your number?
Oh, probably from my girlfriends.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
he apparently had similar sensory reactions to you. How about that? Did you have any forewarning from girlfriends that Bill would or might be calling?
Oh, yes, I did. I did because I was in touch with them. It took him a little time to make that phone call and
Okay, I get it.
meander down to
It's the
Geneseo.
girlfriend intermediaries at work.
Yeah.
Very good, very good,
Yes.
very good. Okay, now we could spend hours and hours talking about you and Bill. And I was going to ask you to tell us, now that you've had 40 plus years with him, tell us who Bill Porcher is. But you know what? I think it's more important to ask it this way. Tell us who Teresa and Bill are.
Well, I am a better person because of Bill, and I think that Bill would say the same. I think that we could confidently say together that our most treasured moments, our most difficult moments, honest moments, raw moments, all contributed to the betterment of each other and the us. Yeah, Bill hasn't changed at all. Bill is still open, talkative, un uncomplicated, unafraid of venturing into different things, different groups of people. He's just taught me so much. And in those lessons of life, he's helped me relax to be as happy and content in being me. And that's what Bill's given me. And we've talked about this. I think he'd say the same thing, like things that I've contributed to his side of life, with books and faith, and those elements. But I'm going on tangents here, so I'm not sure I answered your question correctly.
Well, you did. You did, and you did so better and more expansive than I thought. Now, to the extent that you make reference to difficult moments in your shared life, raw moments in your shared life, what I want to ask you about those is nothing at all. So let's move to something else and let's do a fun thing.
Okay.
Please turn everyone's attention to picture number 8.
And I think we'll probably be consistent that I'm never going to get these all correctly, but I will.
Well, don't worry about it. We're not in no rush.
Try.
3 can be accomplished if need be.
All right. You tell me what you see, Mike.
Right now, it's just the 10 of them at the top of the screen.
I know it's coming on the recording. So it seems to always want me. Got it?
I have it. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who the hell is that?
I don't know. This was Teresa in her bandana, smoking her Vantage cigarette days, I guess.
Mhm.
That's
Now,
the
there's
first
the
Crawford reunion.
T-shirt on. Is that by any chance taken at the Crawford reunion?
Yep. That's at the
Is that
first one, Mike, in our backyard.
very first one?
Yep.
Who took that photo?
No clue. I'm guessing Patty.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember you like that. For some reason, that looks like a, 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 a girl living life in some level of fun abandon and hanging out with a whole bunch of relatives at a big party at our house, which I have great fond memories of. I'm married when that picture's taken.
Yep.
Where are you? Are you in grad school? Are you in Nazareth College? Are you past both of those? Because I don't think Bill was in the picture back then, and you're single
Yep.
there, aren't you?
Yep. Yep. This
Oh.
was well, of course, it's the summer of Dad's death. So I just graduated from community college. I had had a haircut that I hated, so I wore a bandana a lot.
Who gave you that
And
haircut? Let's start telling on
well,
people.
yeah, I'll tell you where I got that haircut, Mike. It was on one of my New York City trips. I
Oh.
walked into a place and they gave me a haircut and it was okay. But
So that's the
anyway,
girl who's soon going to head off to Nazareth and
yep,
eventually Geneseo and bombing around in a great big old rusting Buick.
yep,
Very,
yep,
very interesting.
yep.
Very interesting. What triggered you to take up smoking, much less do it in the yard in front of mom and dad?
Well, I don't think I was smoking in front of mom and dad. I don't think I ever smoked never in front of dad, but but maybe a couple, yeah, I did smoke in front of mom. Mom and I took a trip to New York City once and we were in a restaurant and we went to see, we had just been to the Guggenheim Museum and I just was fascinated. And we went to this wonderful restaurant nearby having like I want to say it was like either brunch or early supper. It was, not late in the day. And we didn't want it to end. And she pulled out a cigarette and I thought, well, I will too.
Now, I have no memory of you and mom going to New York City. Is it just the two of you?
Oh, yes, Mike.
How old are you then?
This was all through my community college days. And I don't know. I think it was, oh, yes, it was, Tommy Toon, Tommy Walsh.
Sure.
All right. So it was Ellie Walsh, his mother from Auburn, used to plan all these bus trips and go see a show or two. And mom and I went twice. And it was just terrific. We had
Is
a
that
lot of
after
fun.
is that after dad had passed away?
I feel like it was. So it must have been I came home from Nazareth to go to those. Gee, that's
Man,
a
I
good
don't
question, Mike. I
anything about those. I just don't remember it. Good for the two of you.
yeah.
And it was by bus, so you're sitting on a bus for three,
Oh
four,
yeah.
5 hours with mom, going down,
Yeah.
coming home.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet a lot of fun.
Yeah. We did. We had a good time. I think that those were years that helped both mom and I have a piece of joy in a way that was surprising and needed.
What did you see on Broadway, if you remember, with mom?
Oh gosh.
Were they plays or musicals or?
I remember it was typically a play and a musical. And one of them was like the setting was in Russia. Nothing like that was that stood out like as a major play. To me it was more about going with mom. And I'll tell you, mom's story there is you could see where mom really had so much of Grandma Teresa's spirit in her, because I definitely remember going to the clothing district with mom, and she had suits made for herself and was fitted, and the fabric was picked out and the design, and they were later sent home to
Wow.
Auburn.
Now, was the Guggenheim part of the bus tour, or did the two of you just say, let's go see the Guggenheim?
I think it was mom that
Mm.
said she wanted to see it. And, I was all about like going on a little trip. Anything was good for me. But that stood out as being something exceptional and modern.
I'm jealous because I love the Guggenheim. I've been there a few times, and I'm wishing I could have gone there with mom, but probably back at that time or those days or those ages, I would have scoffed at the idea. But I'm picturing the two of you there, and I can see you popping out, taking a look at Central Park right outside across the street, deciding where to have your next smoke and go get some food. How about that?
I'll jump in because you gave me permission. Yesterday you asked me about maybe looking like mom, but I think mom offered me such insight in unique ways, because I didn't go off to college as 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 Nancy and Patty did. And Nancy and Patty never returned home. They went from college to marriage. And I not only stayed home more often, and even when I went away to college, I was close enough, and it was so soon after dad died that I came home a lot on the weekends. And then prior to grad school, I came home and stayed with mom. And I bet that's when we did some of those trips. But I have a distinct memory of saying to mom, okay, I've gone to New York. And she would also not drag me along, but invite me, and I happily responded yes. She would like to go to shows in Syracuse. And I said to her, how about for my birthday, we do something together that I want to do? And she said, okay. And well, it all tied into, we went over to see the Nutcracker in Syracuse, which was mom's idea, and it was great. And I said, how about we do something that's more aligned with my life? And she said, okay. And we went to Tinker's after the Nutcracker.
Oh, you've got to tell those who don't know.
Popular bar in Auburn.
You went bar hopping with mom. Okay.
Yeah. And it was winter, or was the start of the winter season, and everybody was in a pre-Christmas festive mood. And that time of the year when you come home and a lot of your friends from out of town are back home from college, and it's just great. And mom and I are dressed up, and we both looked pretty darn good. And I remember slipping into a booth with mom and myself and two other guys. And I can't even remember who the guys were, but they just thought it was terrific that mom and I were hanging out at Tinker's that night. And we probably had a cigarette together there too.
Oh, that's a riot. That's a riot. Now, Tinker's, that makes me want to ask a question that might have been, oh no, but it may be on the same thing. Tom had suggested I ask you about not a Tinker's event, but another bar event, a Stockade encounter with Matt Brown.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, it probably was a girl that looked a lot like this. I had a mad crush on someone, and Tom, talk about charisma and an army of friends. I witnessed that all through high school and college. And I also knew that I got even a better role because I was the sister. And he always took me under his wing. And we hung out a lot at the Stockade, which was a great bar. It was an old barn in Auburn, and they had great music there. And so I guess my crush was ignoring me, and Tom poured a beer in his hoodie.
Oh,
Yeah. So
well,
last
what
laugh was on him and not me.
was that as you and Tom were leaving, or how did this young man react to a beer being poured on him, or did he even know at the moment? Was it
My recall is he didn't know. Tom, I think many of us will have these impressions of our childhood with our brother, that it was both shocking and hysterical all at the same time. So you had to absorb it on both those emotional levels. Like, that was the best, most wonderful move you've ever done, brother Tom. Now it's time to get out of here.
and so you both left? Had you gone there together and then left together?
I don't know if we went there together.
I'm trying
Um,
to picture your exit. Were you the two of you laughing your heads off?
oh, absolutely. And it might not even be the same night, but it's possible that it is. I remember leaving Stockade with Tom and Stephen Crawford.
Ooh.
And then what do you do all the time after you've been out late in a bar? You go get fast food. And that's what we did.
Where'd you go? The three of you.
Burger King.
Oh, lovely. And now let's just remind people who don't know who Steve Crawford is. He's our cousin, and he died young, probably in his 40s, maybe. And he and Tom, although they're cousins, they're best buddies.
Such
And
good
and
friends.
and like Tom, who people need to know if they don't know him, because he kind of knows everybody on earth, as far as I can tell. Tom's buddies never leave each other's lives. They never do, nor he theirs. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, Teresa, I'm looking at my watch and I'm seeing that we're almost at 90 minutes. Is this
Oh,
going
my,
to turn off on us?
might.
Will
Let's
this
see.
will this just stop on us at 90 minutes at that 90-minute time? Because it's okay. I just want to.
Yeah. It's still recording. I don't know the answer to that. Because I haven't ever gone over that, but we can keep an eye on it.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to have to go to phase 3.
Oh,
And for those who don't want
I
it,
was sure you were going to say we got to wrap up.
no, we're going to go to phase 3, and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to call it a day now, but I'm going to tell you that we're going to open phase 3 with the world of you and your brother Jack.
Oh,
He's 1 year older than you are, and I don't necessarily know if it's because of that. I'm sure it's partially because of that, and you, the two of you, living life in terms of events and times in grade school, high school, and college and beyond, kind of together. There's a real connection there, Teresa and Jack. We're going to explore that a little bit next time. And so why don't we finish today by throwing up photo number 7.
all right.
Might as well use them since we've got them, and just chit chat a little bit about that.
Oh, I thought you might go to 10.
Oh, that's at the end.
All right, because that's one of my favorites. Oh. Oh. Up, 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 up.
I
Goodness.
see the picture yet up on my screen. I just see you and me.
Okay, well, we're going to get there.
In fact, what's up on my screen is you and me from interview number 1.
Oh, well, I've just got to move something. There. Whoop. Screen has stopped sharing. Oh, goodness. We were flawless with this in video number 1. Got it?
I've got it. Wonderful. Okay, I'll set the stage if you don't mind. That's the backyard of our house on Owasco Street. Those are the big pine trees that we used to climb up and walk in the back on. They were a nice shaded area. We're both kind of facing Dad's rose garden. Those are my first glasses, so I must be early in high school to be wearing those. And it's me in the middle, Bob in front of me, and you behind me. Who took this picture, when, where, and why?
Well, it's interesting, Mike, because just this morning, I was trying to clarify how much older I am than Bob. So I am 9 years older than Bob.
Yeah.
So I'm 9 and he's not 1 yet.
Yeah.
And then you are 5 years older than I am.
Okay. So I must be
So
14.
14.
14 or
And
15.
yeah. What
Well,
were
we were,
we?
all I know is we were just goofing off, and we were goofing off, making funny, fun pictures with Bob, because I'm obviously put my glasses on him.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a real comedian. And I don't remember the picture. I'm wondering if you do. And I just like that picture of you. I like your haircut there. No bandana.
Mike, I definitely, you know how yesterday you've got these memories of Guiders Camp and Donovan's and Steel Street. I totally remember this. And
Really?
I think I meandered my way into this picture. And if my memory is correct, this is the summer that many of us played upstairs in the attic of the garage. Patty had constructed a theater complete with, the curtain, the stage curtain, and she choreographed all of us, Teresa, Paul, and David wearing her dance costumes. Because I definitely associate that shirt I have on with that summer.
Yeah, and there's some pictures of the poor boys in those dance outfits. I think they were out of the sand pit in the swing set, just out in that other side yard. Yeah, I wouldn't have tolerated that. I wouldn't have tolerated that at all. If I was
you were still in the funny, have fun feeling. So Teresa, Paul, and David are preoccupied with Patty. How did Bob land in your lap?
Yeah, good question. We all did a lot of semi-babysitting at very early young ages with our younger brothers and sisters, but I think we were just in the backyard goofing off, obviously. And I'm glad you actually remember that photo, because I kind of don't. I can picture that kind of setting. I kind of behave that way, but there we are, you, me, and Bob. How about that?
Mike, did you ever watch the television series, The Wonder Years?
I love The Wonder Years. Absolutely.
Don't you look like one of those boys from The Wonder Years?
I felt my life fell into a category of Wonder Years. But you're right. Yeah, it does kind of, it kind of looks that way. It was probably that era of time. That was definitely the 60s. And that was when the Wonder Years were set too.
And also just screams innocent. You know, it may be the 60s, but these were innocent kiddos in the 60s.
Well, let's leave our hoped for someday viewers and listeners with that photo and with a recognition that you and I are coming back for phase 3. There's just a lot, but not a ton more that I want to go through, and you can do some more reflecting and be able to live out that dream that we always live, which is, gee, I wish I could have said this, or I wish I could have included this in my remarks.
You know, like if anybody in the future, if we project that we were kind of having a really good time in this, job well done. Because I've got goosebumps, and I kind of feel like that old television show called This Is Your Life.
Sure.
I get that, and I get to hang out with one of my favorite people of all time, you.
This is way better than that TV show. It's in color. That TV show is white. The heck. So ruminate over what might come next.
Okay.
We'll get in touch. Ladies and gentlemen, the viewing public, we'll be back with episode 3. Bye, Trees.